Yeah, well, there's many facilities in there which myself and the students find very useful. For example, the iPods and the iPads are fantastic for doing little tasks like researching on. Or if I give students maybe a couple of tasks to do, they can go onto the iPads, but the iPods very conveniently for 5-10 minutes, come back to class, we can discuss the sort of findings. But funny enough, of all the tools that are in that particular room, the one that students find most engaging and certainly use more frequently, and likewise certainly myself as a tutor, is the Magic Wall. The Magic Wall is just fantastic. It's very user friendly, it's great for brainstorming, and the students like to use it on a very frequent basis as well. So that's great in terms of that room, but also I like the fact that you can utilise the furniture there quite flexibly to set for the couches, for example. I like to move them to the front of the classroom. The students find it very relaxing, the colours are very relaxing, and the fact that you can move the tables and chairs around very conveniently, very easily, that makes for a very different learning experience for the students as well.
Right, well, I've been using visualisers in my practical sessions, mainly in workshops, because when I'm demonstrating a treatment, sometimes when I've got a big class it's quite hard for the students to see what I'm doing close up. So I have the visualiser pointed at what I'm actually doing, and then it's on the wall, so the students that can't see quite so close can watch it on the wall as well, so they've got two angles of which to see whatever treatments that I'm doing. You can also record on the visualiser, so anything that you've done you can upload it to my course, which they can go back on time and time again. If they practice any treatments at home or anything like that, then they can have a little look at what we've done in the day, just to refresh the memories really.
No, it's been really good to have the iPads. One of the things we've developed is iBooks out of the notes that we've used with students, so rather than just giving the paper handouts, we've been able to use the iBooks to provide a more interactive way of delivering content in lessons. I mean, the first thing is that you're using an interactive resource which the students obviously grab hold of, because it's technology and it sort of speaks to them and they get that. So you've got an instant buy-in, which is really good. But the things that we can do with the content, converting from Word documents to be able to convert them into iBooks, allows us to use and export the books that they use in lessons by highlighting various elements or making annotations that they can then email to themselves, and that's really good. It gives an instantly electronic way of getting notes, so it's a lot safer, it's a lot securer, they're not going to lose it like they will with sheets of paper, but also they can be edited, we can add things in as they go along, so they can create handouts which are personal to them as well. From the books we give them, they can then use that to create a set of notes. Which is electronic itself. And
I think probably the biggest set of equipment that I've used has been the iPads. The iPads are fantastic resources. They're instantly accessible to the internet. They're a very quick tool for researching. The students are familiar with the sort of the Apple technology anyway, and it mimics what they pretty much have in their pockets. I think it gives us more scope to do what we do, to teach. I think it gives us a wider base of resources. It allows us to perhaps be a bit freer in the way that we teach, in the way that our students learn, and I think there's been a big impact in having that room, definitely.
Okay, using the class set of iPods that I've got has totally changed the way that I can look at my first year photography course, because it allows me to produce work and for students to produce work much quicker, whereas it might have taken 2-3 lessons to talk through a concept and then see the products. So I would, for instance, talk through a topic on the smartboard, then I can hand out the iPods, explain to the students how to use them, but they all know anyway because they all have them themselves anyway. So I hand out the iPods, send them out to take some pictures, and then as soon as they come back, I use an app called Dropbox. The pictures are instantly on the computer, and the next part of the lesson can start. It's instantly there, and we're moving on, so there's no break in the students learning new things and progressing with the coursework.
Been using the headcount for quite a while now. It's a fabulous tool to use in a practical situation, practical workshops, when students are training. The beauty of this is that they can record themselves working, they can play it back as many times as they need to, then they can self-evaluate it, critique it, they can ask other learners to critique it as well, and then they can have a gap of time where they re-record themselves and then compare and contrast the improvements that they've made. It tends to be much better than expecting the student to remember and say to you maybe at the end of a session, well, how did you find that? piece of work that you've done today, what was good about it, what areas would you like to improve on, so it proves itself to be invaluable.
The use of video technology within my lessons has been absolutely fantastic, because one of the things that I've done is, especially with a lot of the dissections, lung dissections and frog dissections, we've managed to record them and then put them up onto the website and YouTube and iTunes in order for me to utilise that in differential settings. For example, going over to the faith schools and where we don't have the equipment such as the dissection equipment there, we've been able to just project it and students can view that, and therefore from there we can move further and they can look at the correct techniques rather than do the actual dissection themselves. That's obviously, it all depends on what equipment we've got available. One of the advances of this is that it's accessible kind of thing from anywhere, basically around the world. And I've had students from different colleges, colleagues from different colleges utilising this and looking at it. And also I've had some positive feedback from students because when we've gone over a task in college, they can then go home, have a look at it on my course, have a look at it on YouTube, and then therefore they can refresh the technique and refresh how it's done to make it easy for them to understand and apply the knowledge at a later stage.
The big ethos that we're trying to get in our area is that staff should be learners also, and to be a good learner you can be a good teacher. So to try new technologies and not to have that fear of trying something new. But the main thing that I think we really did well last year was to make IT that was purposeful, not just sitting at a computer. It was about linking learners and differentiation. So we used IT, and that is something we want it to be. We want it to be purposeful and relevant, but to also give that challenge. It's not just a fun tool that we can play with that we've got at home. It's bringing something we've got at home here and making it educational.